Good morning, everyone. We're starting the first discussion panel of the Deep Tech stage in this iconic location, and welcome to the conference, the biggest blockchain summit in Germany. Virtual reality and augmented reality are being used in so many industries at the moment, and they are changing the way that we learn, interact, and collaborate. Today, together with Susheel, Bay, Hendrik, and Rob, we are going to explore the opportunities, the challenges, and the everyday effects of these technologies in our lives. My name is Mahsa Doorfard. I am the Sales and Marketing Manager at coinIX, which is a blockchain investment firm. And now I'm going to ask our speakers to shortly introduce themselves. Would you please start?
I need a microphone, sorry. Hey everyone, grateful to be here. I'm Susheel Nath. I'm the Cave Manager at FARI, AI for the Common Good. To give a context of FARI, we are a research institute that's a merger of two of the universities in Brussels. And what I specifically do as an emphasis is focus on data visualization in 3 dimensions and also its immersive capabilities, AR, VR as a visualization and deployment as a whole. Yeah.
Perfect. Hi. My name is Rob. I work at a company called PICO. I'm commercial director at PICO. Hands up, who knows PICO? Who has heard of this XR company? That is not so much. We are the 2nd largest headset manufacturer in the world. So between Meta, PICO, HTC, Apple, we built all the headsets in the world, basically. And my team and I, we support partners who are using this technology in an enterprise setup, right? So I'm super passionate about this topic, so sorry if I go at this. But I think this technology has an immense potential to change the world and to improve it. But I do think that it's not necessarily the consumer side that is so interesting. It's the way we teach, the way we learn, the way we train, and the way we connect with other people, culture, and entertainment. So PICO works in this specific area, and my team and I, we help partners in schools, hospitals, companies, and also location-based entertainment, maybe more about that later, to develop projects with VR and mixed reality.
Yeah, my name is Hendrik. I'm the founder of the MILC platform, MILC.global, which is basically a Web3 consortium trying to transport media, global media, into the Web3 space. That includes blockchain technology solutions, AI production solutions, Metaverse platforms, and all that kind of stuff. The platform is driven by more or less media professionals who are working since all of their life into that area. We came together in a collaborative way. We call the platform MILC, but it's basically co-owned by many people yet. And what we try to do is find a solution of how media will look like in Web3.
Hey, I'm Bay. I'm head producer and curator at the Decentraland Foundation. Anyone, hands up if you know Decentraland. So Decentraland, we're a social virtual world. We were conceived in 2017. We've been building and collaborating since 2020. We're a huge community. Hey, community members. And we have a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. My role is to create engaging, immersive, community-driven, collaborative events in virtual worlds. So we can talk from the layer of how do you actually get people engaging in a virtual space.
Amazing. So to begin with, how do you see the current state of augmented reality and virtual reality? Who wants to start?
It's dead.
Absolutely, nobody needs it.
No, but so this is what I see at least very often. It's like a headline, VR is dead. And then something happened and people are just losing their mind about it. But the reality is that headsets are still sold. We have more content than ever. More people are using virtual reality. And if you look at the enterprise segment, more schools are using this technology. More companies are using this technology. The country, Germany and North Rhine-Westphalia, so the region that we are in right now, they invested in this technology for schools, for example. So this is not dead. This is pretty much alive. Last year, the government here in Germany, in NRW, bought headsets, and every school, so if you have kids here in NRW in a school, that school can get free headsets with content for free to use in the classroom. And if the school is, or if the government is banking on it, the ministries are banking on it, I think it's pretty much not dead, and it is pretty much growing. This is what we observe in the number of headsets and so on that we do and sell.
Yeah, from our perspective as a virtual world, we completely admire everything that's happening on the tech side. We see virtual worlds as a new media form, a way of interacting. So it's not about the access technology, so it could be VR, it could be AR, it could be mobile, it could be PC-based. What we see are people are being extremely interested in what's on the other side. So we don't talk so much about gaming consoles, we talk about games. So what we're seeing is people being extremely interested about how people actually interact when they come together in virtual environments. And I think that's been the sea change over the last 4 years, is that people are very comfortable thinking about virtual worlds, but it's now like, how do we get people coming back? How do we get people creating? How do we get communities forming within these environments? And that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing it moving at a really rapid pace right now. And we see that by the level of interest in the clicks we get to the website, in the people downloading, in the people entering, and also just the volume of chat messages that are being sent within World. We just had an event, and it was a small event, a tiny event about careers, 6,000 chat messages over 2 days. So it's this kind of level of interest that we're seeing.
I'd say I wholesomely agree, likewise, Rob and Beth. When it comes to, at least to give a context from an innovation and academia standpoint that FARI represents, it's not a buzzword anymore, it's not a trend anymore. Innovation is prominent. We have many publications, many pipelines, many, so to speak, researchers and PhDs engaging in the hands-on into optimization practices and how that can be normalized and commercialized even. And of course, yeah, I mean, in a sense that it's not used as a trendy buzzword. Now AI predominates that, of course, and it's what it is. But I think from a psychological standpoint as well, if you consider, and we've done tests when it comes to user studies, when it comes to focus groups and interviews, layman and non-layman, or technical and non-technical tech-savvy people alike, when we mention even the basics of AR and VR, they grasp that. So I think even from a psychological side of things, it's imprinted, it's already there, which of course, it makes us more, it gives us a much more brilliance to innovate the deep down aspects of the technology, right? So I think even from an academic side, to kind of be succinct, there's a lot of prominence in terms of the tech, there's a lot of prominence in terms of the user understandings, the user perceptual and the user experience understandings behind that. And I think it's not dead. Agreed.
Not dead.
Absolutely.
So perfect. You've all mentioned some of the use cases of VR in different industries, such as healthcare, entertainment, education. But if we want to say what are the most successful use cases of enterprise VR, what would you say? Who's going to go first?
Out of my perspective, the most successful use case is actually the industrial metaverse, digital twins. It's a little bit off public, nobody knows what's going on, but at least a German company like Siemens is absolutely market leading in that space, and they're collaborating globally in order to manufacture things on a nanometer basis, and this is where VR really is essential, otherwise you can't do that, yeah? And it becomes commercial, yeah, because it's relevant. What we're talking about is the more entertaining aspect of VR and AR, and this area is still quite weak, I would say, but I assume that it will get stronger. Yeah. We're going to have those VR, AR theme parks already. They're pretty seductive, actually. If you go into one of those, you see how easy you are willing to forget the reality, but it's stationary. Yeah. The next level is that it becomes a more popular tool within, for example, the Metaverse world. Yeah? It's not that the Metaverse needs VR, but it's powerful. It's a powerful tool. It's not that we need AI, but it's powerful, or a blockchain. So basically, all those components are very powerful tools that, out of my perspective, formulating the Web3 difference. What's happening on the Web3 technological level, and what is the difference to Web2?
Yeah, so from my perspective, so I work in enterprise VR, so I work with companies and hospitals and so on, and there is something about each of these areas. So Hendrik already mentioned entertainment, and it has actually been one of the strongest growth areas. If you look at Asia, but also here in Europe, you might have seen the Titanic experience, which is in Cologne and Hamburg. There's the last days of Pompeii in Oberhausen. In Munich, you find Kloster Andritz with a VR experience. So these kind of, or roller coasters, or Europa Park is one of our partners. These areas, they're increasing and increasing. And it's impressive because you can just do things that are not real. You see a giant dragon flying around you. You experience something. You're sharing an emotion with your family or with friends. So this area, entertainment, is definitely growing massively. But on the other side, I mentioned education here in Europe. NRW has done a fantastic project, 3,000 headsets. If you look at the US, we have one partner who has 30,000 headsets in schools. So education is a big topic. Hendrik mentioned digital twins, something that is very hidden. Okay, but Lufthansa, for example, here in Germany, they train all of their flight crews. So if you flew here using a Lufthansa flight, those people were trained with virtual reality. They have to do this twice a year with virtual reality. And in healthcare, if you look at France, for example, there's a lot of pain management, chronic pain, acute pain, surgeries even done with virtual reality because it reduces the amount of medication. So if we look at all these things, then the enterprise area is extremely strong. And there's so many interesting applications and areas where this is being used. And I would say all of them have a unique return on investment. If you look at this word, ROI, return on investment. And it's very often, if you just need a case and you don't know what, it's very often related to things called DICE. It's either dangerous, impossible to do, flying a dragon. It's counterintuitive to stop the operations of your company so that you can train people, or it's expensive, right? And when you have one of these topics or more coming together, then this is where virtual reality has a real power to change something.
Even from taking a step or a tangent into a non-commercial domain, something more into digital twins. What we do in the Brussels capital region is we predominantly work with public administrations, and it's a given when you have public administrations and even enterprises and organizations. The data is going to be quite exponential. And again, when you consider historic as well as real-time data, over time that just grows and grows and grows. And at one point, the bridge snaps and it becomes siloed. So in an essence, the reason, again, I mentioned digital twins and an AR VR is it's a nice merger of even data elements as well. When it comes to the regular or the normal aspects of what we consider society operations, it's a nice way to bring that together and bring an efficient means of cohesion, I suppose, when it comes to all of these elements as well. So I think even from an, I won't necessarily call it enterprise per se, but even from a regular societal operation standpoint, it does miracles.
I think just as an interesting point from a virtual world side, many of us have read a book called Virtual Society by Herman Narula. If you haven't read it, M Square's talking tomorrow. It's a great way of looking at virtual worlds. And what they say is the difference between a virtual world and a video game is the virtual world has consequence. So for many of these enterprise applications, the consequence is DICE. Yeah. You know, it is consequential for the people working in these industries. It's an important consequence. And then from our side, as a social virtual world, it's working out how virtual worlds have a wider consequence, how it actually impacts people's careers, progression, self-actualization, reality, community, all of these things that in the early days of the internet, we were talking about these silos. You know, okay, how is this applied to this industry? How is it applied to this industry? And now we just talk about being immersed in Web 2 communications. And I would disagree that Web 3 isn't an important part of all of this conversation, because it allows much more consequence to those virtual worlds than we would in a Web 2 space. So just to flag that now.
Just to maybe bring this all together as well, I mean, you mentioned administration, and 2 years ago, I think we did a project with the Ministry Innenministerium of Niedersachsen, Lower Saxony, and they used virtual reality for their internal communication instead of meetings, you know, instead of Zoom meetings. And they had some fantastic results. When I see here PwC, they made a study out of it, it's published, so super interesting results. But then that ties into other things. So other government projects include civil collaboration, so that people from the town will understand what is being discussed, what is being done, and virtual reality, or even Web 3.0 generally, allows people to participate, to collaborate, and up to a certain point, I don't think that we are there yet, but we could eliminate more of those silos, because it's just available, it's secure data that people can access from different areas, from different topics as well. Yeah.
Indeed, thank you for sharing your insights. My next question is directly from Susheel. So at FARI, you guys are very focusing on involvement of the users, but how do you capture their, the users' perceptions, and how exactly is it going to affect the outcomes?
I'll actually answer the latter and then link that with the former. User perceptual understanding, especially when it's subjective as well as objective driven, it's highly important that we integrate when it comes to research and innovation. We integrate that both in the early stages, when it's in the beginnings, as well as in the ends as a validation. So in the early stages, you get a certain framework that evolves. Let's say you're having a basis of technology that the technical team is innovating on. Having an education, who is the recipient of that technology? How are they gonna find it? How are they gonna experience it? How are they gonna immerse themselves? Are there any chinks in the armor that's already pointed out from that? If there's any user experience discrepancies, like even nausea, even from a minimal standpoint, right? All of those personas gets formulated from an early standpoint, and then the innovation begins after. And then penultimately, in the end, you would have a feedback loop where this very same technology is then provided back to the users, given their own subjective metrics, as well as the computational metrics from a technical standpoint. And then how do they find it now? Is it applicable? Does it fit with the entire premise of what the innovation began? Can it be now rolled out in a more, from a prototypical to a prototypical or commercial domain? And then evolution from there, right? And then, of course, if there's yes, binary, okay, brilliant. If there's no, come back into innovation again, and then play that, right? So you can see how there's a, it's basically robustness. And it's also an inclusion of a societal contribution, because eventually, at least from FARI's standpoint, we develop and innovate for the common good. The intention is for technological implementation and deployment for regular usages, right? So eventually the end goal or the end result is going to be the citizens. Obviously, it makes sense to apply them. When it comes to how do we do that, we predominantly consider focus groups and interviews, where we consider both their subjective understanding of again, the hows and the whys, and also computational understandings from a qualitative standpoint. Integrate that into the research, and then voila, you have a robust pipeline, so to speak, that emerges from that. Encapsulating all of those is, I say, from a personal exposure standpoint, in regards to FARI, it's highly important, and it also, I would say, bleeds positively into the research groups that we collaborate with as well. And I do suspect it, I mean, optimistically, of course, I do imply that it would be positively aligned even from an industry standpoint as well overall, so yeah.
Perfect, thank you. My next question is from Hendrik. So at MILC, you guys are very focused on transparency and fairness when it comes to this blockchain-based certifying system. But how exactly is it going to change the way that creators and users are going to interact in comparison to the traditional systems that we have now?
So technically speaking, as I said, the MILC platform is a technical infrastructure providing a new creator economy with all the tools they need in order to create content. But on the other side, it's our intention is to enter into kind of a new social contract. Because the way content works today, I'm a content guy since all of my life. I'm in TV since all of my life. I don't like it anymore. I don't like news anymore. I don't like publishing anymore. I don't like the music industry. I think we have to change quite a lot. And we should start with providing creators with more opportunities. Just guess if transparency is an issue on the platform, if you know where your content goes, and if you get paid for it, you eventually have the intention to start a sustainable career. Going to make money out of that. Income sources like advertising, very important. We all live from that. It's highly important. But right now, brands are buying attention. They pay whoever, Meta, whatever, for some user attention. What we try to provide them with are the tools to interact with their clients and do not pay for attention anymore, maybe gain loyalty, which is a completely different kind of thing. And last but not least, the user, who is a creator, is not the producer, the musician, the artist, the whoever, the writer, it's us. Anyone is a creator and can create something, and this is a strength. I'm really looking forward to all those wonderful things that are coming out of everyone in terms of creativity. But they need to trust the platform as well. They need to understand that they're not longer a digital product anymore, like on Facebook. You play around with some nice tools and somebody does money on you and you don't get anything back. But you are the value. You are the raw material. If I want to manufacture a ring, I need to buy some gold. I can't get it for free. Only users are for free out of the system we have right now. We're going to change that. We're going to make sure that you are actually kind of a stakeholder of the platform. And is that you are more or less co-owner of the culture we are generating. That's the philosophy of Web3, and that's the difference. What we have to provide everyone with all the fancy technology stuff. But you don't have to wrap your head around that. Yes, there are wonderful AI tools going to make your production as cheap as crazy. We're still already working on a couple of productions. Even me, I'm really amazed how production costs will go down and the quality will go up. Basically, it means it's easy for you to create something. Yeah? And we are talking about the financial department, helping you to finance your project through crowdfunded tokenization. We have streaming infrastructure. There is going to be a streaming platform with is open up fairly soon, a competitor to Netflix and Amazon on the Web3 space. So this is what we do in the background. This is what we provide the community with. We are done. We have finished all of our developments. So now it's about market entry, and then we hopefully provide users and creators with enough tools to just start and do their own business.
Perfect. Yeah, indeed, with blockchain, users can be incentivized in platforms, and that's exactly what we're looking for. My next question is from Rob. So, what about the advances in hardware? If we have lighter headsets, better optics, how is it going to change the advancements of the VR industry?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because there is a little bit of controversial questions in there a little bit. So let's say it this way. Obviously, we are, as PICO, we are working on next generation headsets. They are lighter, they are more powerful, they can do better graphics. They have all this power, this raw power. You take a computer and you squeeze it into a headset, right? Apple has done this, and it's a fantastic headset, for example. So we are looking into headsets, we are looking into glasses, we are looking into a lot of different devices. So the thing here is, those devices, they do not matter so much. So if you want to do something with virtual reality, with augmented reality. You can do it today. The technology that we have today is fantastic. You have pass-through, you can see the reality, you can overlay things. You have very powerful headsets already. For most of the things, these headsets, they are good enough, and they are at the price point where they are cheap enough. Now, let me tell you one small thing. We, in the enterprise area, we sell different headsets. We sell this one. This is like a high-powered super headset. It can do everything that you want it to do. But the headset that we sell as much as this one are headsets that are as basic as you can imagine. You can put them on your kids, on your grandma, on your parents, on patients, on everyone. You just, on non-tech savvy people, you just put on the headset, you are immediately in virtual reality, you can look around, it's all virtual reality. You get a controller with one button, point and shoot, and we sell exactly as many headsets of those as we sell of these. So if you're asking, is a new technology bringing us much, much forward? It could. It unlocks definitely new opportunities and new possibilities. But still, there's so many people who haven't even started looking into virtual reality, and we have to get them into the boat as well. And this is why we sell so many of those relatively low cost and very simple entry headsets as well.
Perfect. My next question is from Bay. So what are the opportunities that AR and VR open up when it comes to cultural events, from art exhibitions to like fashion shows?
It's wide. I'm producing Art Week this September, this month. This is my third I've produced. It's been going for 5 years now. It's the most immersive art fair in virtual worlds. We do it in Decentraland because it means that you don't have to enter with a headset. So our users log in via their PCs, and they see immersive installation designed in GLB form, which, you know, GLB, virtual world, it's the virtual world file format. So what we see is the generation of creators coming through have to learn their craft. So they're learning their craft through places like Decentraland. I started out in Decentraland producing my own virtual world art fair called Mesh, working with virtual reality artists, and they didn't have anywhere to exhibit. Like, it's just as very simple. So in my career, I've done AR exhibitions, I've done VR exhibitions, I teach virtual worlds to students at Berkeley in the global entertainment and media business. So I'm kind of seeing all these perspectives. And what we're seeing is virtual events offer a layer of immersion, engagement, and participation that we just can't do in the real world. We bring in Decentraland 200 different countries together in virtual events. Our last event, we had 1 hour and 47 minutes as the average time within that event, which for a gaming environment, a virtual world, is enormous. And we're seeing people engage because it offers a level of interaction that they can't access in reality. They can do things with their avatars that we can't do in real life. So if I was in Decentraland right now, I'd change my wearables to respond to what Rob was saying. I'd probably put a PICO headset on. I'd change everything I'm wearing. I'd interact with Mahsa, your questions. I would be interacting. I would be moving around this environment. I would be jumping on spaces. I would be taking, importantly, my own content around this and sharing it in real time with the people sharing that experience. So you get these layers of meta-interaction that, unless you've been participating in worlds and events created by community members like Toxic and Gino at the DAO, you are not going to understand yet what is possible in virtual worlds. Because we're seeing it at the moment through the headset, through the AR, and we're seeing these kind of static installations. It goes far beyond that. It engages with people in a way that we cannot yet imagine. We used to talk about it as it's like cinema in 1910. We have the tech, we know how to put an image on a wall, but we don't yet know narrative, storytelling, engagement, the types of films that work, why people go into cinemas. And that's what's happening on the virtual world side right now, is working out when we bring multiple time zones together into an experience like an art fair, a music festival. We have music festival in November. We have festive trails. Like, how do people actually interact? What makes them come back? What makes them stay? And in the majority of our cases, what we're finding is it's human interaction. but it's human interaction in a level that we just can't do right now. I can't have the same level interaction with the chap in the hat on the front row as I could in a virtual world, because there are so many other layers of engagement that we're just exploring.
I'm personally a fan of Decentraland.
Can I just add to that? So I just came back from the Venice Film Festival, and virtual reality or mixed reality is like an immense area there, and it's super interesting. And it ties into what you said before, and you as well, Hendrik. In the end, this technology, it enables you to create something that doesn't exist, right? And it enables you to have an interaction that would not be possible otherwise. So all those immersive experiences that I saw at Venice, they are fantastic. They create emotions, they create something, right? So who here has been to Venice this year? No one. All right. So that is the reason why you should use platforms like the one that Hendrik is creating or that you are talking about, because then you do not have to go to Venice. You can just go on Decentraland and you can see this art. You can create art. So a lot of the things that were very interesting there is that when more people come together, they interact, they create something together. And that could be a unique piece of art that you then have in Decentraland or on MILC or in other platforms. So it's actually quite an interesting area. And as I said in the beginning, this type of entertainment and cultural topics, they are more and more expanding here in Europe and also in Asia, and slowly going also to the US. But there's a lot of things happening, and I think this technology just creates so much potential in this space.
I think also the merger, Rob and Abe's point as well, is even when it comes from a research standpoint, the software is, the possibilities with regards to software to create a virtual environment is quite impeccable. Again, to look into new research elements of, for example, Gaussian splatting, for those who are aware of Gaussian splatting, it's quite literally creating a stitch-up of images, panoramic images around from a 360 dimension, and that's your virtual environment as a model created, right? A model, double quotes. That is immensely optimized now, and that can be brought over to any of the platforms because they are in conventional data formats, easily interoperable data formats. And they're optimized so to an extent that at one point, when you consider it software and hardware aspects, there's always a variance bias. Either one runs or the other runs. But now it's in a situation where it's quite balanced, where there are capacities. Let's say if you're a creative, or let's say if you're a developer or an innovator, there are capacities where you can create environments, you can immerse yourself to the environments, you can link that with data quite easily. And then you have the hardware currently right now that is capacitative enough and more to completely visualize them at brilliant performance, right? And then obviously us as users immersing ourselves, we have a complete tangibility of all of our senses coming in. Maybe not touch yet, but then if that's the future, maybe that happens in the future, right? But then as soon as that happens, it's indistinguishable. And then now imagine your exploration in that world, if it's, let's say, from a memorial standpoint, or if it's from a having fun standpoint, or if it's even from a decision-making standpoint. It just amplifies, right? I think that's one thing I wanted to kind of flag and then put that. It's a nice, from a software and a hardware dimension, how it is interoperable in many of the elements, many of the platforms, and what are the possibilities we can do from both as well. I mean, it's cheesy to say the time is now, but it is quite really, literally the time is now.
Now, a question from all of you. Which opportunities and trends are you most excited about for the next 3 to 5 years?
Obviously, user adoption. That's the big one on the horizon. We see from our perspective that people don't really care how they're accessing things. People tend to have a portfolio of devices that they want to access things on, and they're quite used to accessing things on the PC. So I would say that we're starting to move towards the new generations coming up particularly, who are very, very used to gaming environments moving into virtual worlds. Things like Fortnite, Roblox, we see those as an amazing kind of mentors, I guess, kind of people that are doing great things in terms of engagement and experience, and then how can we bring that into a more consequential place? How can we bring that into a space that scales for people like us, people that we're used to daily interaction? How do we take that daily interaction and take it into a virtual world and give enough social cues, give enough information to our users that they know what to do? So we see a huge generation gap right now. Younger users come into a virtual world and intuitively know how to navigate that space. Whereas, not to be generalized for people in the room right now, but more mature users walk into a virtual world and don't know what to do. They need more guidance. And that can have some very interesting conversations, because in a virtual world, you want to do things that aren't possible in the real world. You want to push people into experiences that they can't access in any other way. But from our very practical experience on the ground, if we do that, we confuse people. So it's about how do we give information, how do we wayfind, how do we learn from a vast wave of industry, from enterprise VR all the way up to gaming, and say, okay, if we want people to adopt these environments, we need to know how to communicate through those environments. And we don't yet. We're working that out as we go. So user adoption is the mainstay. The generations coming through know how to use these environments, so they will naturally move into them, and we're seeing that more and more. And then also monetization. So it's the big one for everybody. Our creators want to know, how do we make money in these environments? It's not enough to say we're bringing creators together. It's not enough to say we're just going to tokenize your output. You know, it's not 2020. It's 2025. Like, we have to be very real about how many people make money in virtual worlds. How do people make real connections that actually forward their careers within those spaces? And then, how do they stay within virtual worlds? So what keeps them coming back? And you know, we are very happy to talk about the experience we've already gained within Decentraland and share those with everybody else in the industry as well.
I think also from going in from rather from a retrospective users' understandings to introspective within the organization's data understandings, and it's also to kind of elucidate a point earlier on. We have an immense amount of data that exists in two-dimensional formats that are not intuitive enough, that are not interactive enough, that are not immersive enough. As soon as, again, and right now the technology is in a realm that all of these data capacities, whether if it's within inter-organization or intra-organization, however it is, they can be reconstructed into 3 dimensions and, quite literally, pun intended, unlock another layer of dimension for interaction with that. So I think it goes both ways, and again, it's brilliant to see that happen.
So thank you, all the speakers, for sharing all your insights. For investors and innovators, the opportunity is to think beyond the screen, beyond the platforms, and beyond the hype. Those who know how to create immersive, decentralized platforms and experiences will create the future of interactions. Thank you for your attention.